I'm getting ready to commit a cardinal sin in the eyes of many Dexter fans. They're probably going to be very upset with me, but I think this is something that warrants conversation. So without further ado, let me explain why I believe Maria LaGuerta is I'm not going to say most underrated Dexter character, but definitely one that should be more appreciated. In any narrative, you need characters who have different roles, different personalities, in order to bring out certain aspects of whoever your lead characters are. Going through the cast of the first season of the show, whether you're talking about Masuka, Batista, Dokes, Dexter, there's not really anyone there that doesn't like Deb. Like, the guys working for Miami Metro all generally have a positive or non-confrontational relationship with her. So having someone above her who is just needlessly, mean, does add something to the story. And of course, LaGuerta, even in being hostile to her or not really like taking her seriously, she still cares about her to the extent that when she ends up going missing as a result of her involvement with, the ice truck killer, she wastes no expense trying to search for her and, get her found. The only part of LaGuerta in season 1 that is weird is her attraction to Dexter, and that's mainly because they drop it, whereas a lot of fans have pointed out that they probably would have been better off keeping it, because then it would make more sense for Dexter to get away with his various, call outs and absences, and easier for him to manipulate. So that's something that was kind of like, just it's only strange or something I'm not going to defend because it is inconsistent with what we see from her for the rest of the show. But if we go into season 2, she's been demoted, right? Replaced by Pascal. This is how the status quo is for the first couple episodes of the season. And we find out, that Pascal is like going crazy, thinking that her boyfriend or fiance is cheating on her with another woman. And eventually we get the twist that it was LaGuerta who was sleeping with her fiance. A lot of fans think this is irredeemable. Oh my God, this is disgusting. But what I always like, and LaGuerta even points this out during the last encounter they have. Pascal was a good person, right? But she was also someone who was using police resources to verify her suspicions of her romantic partner. The fiance was the one who was committing infidelity. Even if he was doing it with LaGuerta was still someone that was just along for the ride. She's not cheating on anyone. It's him doing that. So it's like, again, even if I don't like that she did that, right? You have to admit that Pascal kind of gave her the sword to run her through with, in the sense that if she hadn't have used police resources to, effectively confirm whether her partner was cheating on her or not, and just let it drive her crazy, the suspicion, she would still have her job. But as we continue into season 2 and, we start to get the suspicion from the FBI that Dokes is the Bay Harbor butcher, and LaGuerta takes a call from him that she doesn't tell Lundy about. These are more of those aspects of her character which are very redeeming, because throughout the show she's characterized as this person who is power hungry and always trying to get that advancement in her career, save face. But it's through her interactions with Dokes, right, where she's given him the warning and basically forced into having to fully reprimand him when he assaults Dexter in front of everybody, that we see that she is capable of caring about other people just as much as herself, if not more. I mean, she even goes out of her way to try and get Dokes a 6-figure job that he stands her up for, which is, even more disgusting. It's one of those things where it's like, because people like Dokes so much, a lot of his crappier traits, right, the abrasiveness, the disrespect of the law, even though you are on the law, a member of the law, those are the things that they will kind of like let slide, again, because they like the character so much. But for LaGuerta, who's like in the position of basically the team leader of Miami Metro for most of the show, they're more critical of her for lesser infractions or for just doing her job. And I will say, season 3 is underrated. I'm contemplating making a full video about it. I don't know if I will. But one of my favorite aspects of season 3 is LaGuerta's involvement. I like the established ties that she has with Miguel. I like that she tries to cut him a deal, right? She plays into his wife's suspicions that he's having an affair because they used to date, apparently. I enjoy her like bargaining or budding friendship with Ellen Wolf, and it's again through this season that we get more and more aspects of her humanity. Right, this is someone who had to basically screw the guy that was the fiance of the person that replaced her last season, but this is also someone who was very torn up about Dokes's accusations of being the Bay Harbor Butcher and his death, and eventually also just the killing of Wolf, right? These are things which she shows a clear humanity in experiencing. And I really, what I like so much about the Ellen Wolf relationship is that we don't really have like female friendships in the Dexter series. Like I think Deb and Rita might get a scene together, throughout the first 4 seasons, maybe like once every couple of episodes. It's very rare to see 2 women in that series that actually get along and are just friends. So it was refreshing. Season 4 and 5 is mainly her romance with Batista. And then the 4th season, it's kind of like whatever, because the main draw of that season is the the Trinity storyline. It is admittedly one of the weaker aspects of the show, of that season anyway. Like it's pretty agreed to just not be the best part of it. But again, you get more of LaGuerta's intellect and right, like her ability to take reputational status and use that to her advantage when Matthews tries to get her and Batista for committing perjury, and then they have this clandestine marriage where they're able to basically kind of like challenge him. If hey, you want to go and out us, you'll be attacking a married couple, right? And then throughout season 5, we obviously see that she's very kind towards Dexter, right? She doesn't want the police investigating. She's clearly affected by Rita's murder. She's like retaliates against Quinn when she finds out that he's investigating him. We get more of that compassion that tends to get overlooked when people are deriding her for any of the political calculations that she makes. And it's unfortunate that they had to separate her and Batista because it retroactively makes everything that they did together throughout season 4 and 5 just kind of filler, like just stuff that wasn't going to matter because we're going to end this relationship off screen and abruptly anyway. In the 6th season, we see a lot of her double speak, right, where she's trying to advise Deb and be a mentor for her. And, there's, again, going back to that whole part of her self-serving nature being circumvented by something else. When we see that she tried to have Batista installed as lieutenant, that's, again, another example of where she is capable of showing true concern and compassion for the people that she's either worked with or has had some long-standing friendship relationship with, like Dokes or Batista. So even that, even if they've split, they're still very friendly with each other, and it's amicable. Of course, her biggest betrayal is of Matthews with the basically trying to get Deb to make it, just drop the investigation into the John that was with the hooker when she died, and then ratting him out anyway, but having Deb take the fall for it, because it's a betrayal of both of them, right? Of like, it's a betrayal of Matthews because he trusted LaGuerta would make it go away, and it's a betrayal of Deb because she's tried to play this mentoring type role to her, and she's basically like, yeah, I'm gonna make you look like the snake I am for something that I did. And man, season 7 is it's such a frustrating rewatch. It really is, because there's so much about a lot of that like second half of the show that I can say I enjoy, like in isolation. A lot of people give Jennifer Carpenter praise for her performance as Deb, right, in season 7, which is very strong, but I really liked the stuff with LaGuerta where she's picking up the pieces of, was Dokes really the Bay Harbor Butcher? And she's like pointing out what he believed at the time. And really, What's so frustrating about her in that season is that this is the most involved she's been with the show's main plot, really since season 3. And in having her in such a frontal, important, significant role, which really, again, this show knew when season 6 was airing that 7 and 8 were going to be the last, or they're going to get at least 2 more seasons. So it kills me that you would have one of the characters who's been there since the start of the show putting the pieces together, kind of like picking up Dokes' baton, and then you effectively do the same thing twice. Of once they find out definitively they're killed by some accomplice of Dexter's, having Deb do to LaGuerta what Lila did to Dokes. And it goes back to this same like frustration of this show, Dexter, it has such an interesting premise to it, but it is ruined by Showtime's refusal to just let things end. I mean, picture this. Instead of the season 8 that we got, imagine if season 7 ended with, let's say, Deb shooting LaGuerta in the arm, right? Not killing her. And then she tells Dexter, you gotta get out of here, get out of here. Like, just gives him like a head start. And then season 8 is the manhunt. Dexter's on the run. LaGuerta and Deb have come to an understanding that she will lie for her and pretend she had nothing to do with this and that she saved her life and yada, 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 right? And I think if the show was intending to end when it did, right, to not have the sexiness of a sequel like laying out in the horizon for it, that would have made for an infinitely more interesting and satisfying conclusion than season 8. And I have to say, LaGuerta's absence in season 8 is very noticeable. Like I have said before that I'm not a fan of killing off characters if it's not going to actually like be to the effect of the show. And the only thing that we really get out of her being gone is the deletion of a plot that really could have made for the final season's plot. And Deb going on this like breakdown and meltdown, which is nice character stuff with her. But it's unfortunate because of how much of a consistent force LaGuerta was throughout the show. And this isn't even about who I like the most, right? Because I really like Batista. I really, just whatever. But in terms of major characters, right, like ones who are there for like multiple seasons or throughout most of the show, I would say in terms of who's consistently written, right, who has the most to do, does the least stuff out of character, LaGuerta would probably be the third best Dexter character. Like, I'm not even trying to be funny. There are full seasons where I can criticize the lack of a role of Batista, of Quinn, of Masuka, but in every season I can always tell you what LaGuerta was doing, and that's because she's just a very versatile character. She's effectively the leader of the police. She has this like distinct way of her of trying to amass power. And I think if we were watching any other police show, more people would like her, as opposed to, Dexter's obviously the main draw, the serial killer that kills other bad people. And it's a lot easier to go after LaGuerta for having human flaws as opposed to, murderous ones. But I have to say, I really miss her presence in a lot of the stuff that's come afterward, because you don't have that kind of individual like running things in the background. So I do criticize Dexter a lot, just the show, right? But I will say LaGuerta is one of the better aspects of the original series. Like, I would have the only thing I would say I didn't like about her was the endless, needless, just antagonism of Deb, right? And that they killed her off when she was at her most interesting. I think that we would have had a much more solid conclusion to the show if they went with the version that I just mentioned. But again, what we did end up getting with her was really solid in and of itself. And I will say, she is one of the best aspects of season 3 for me. I really think she holds a lot of that season together. So thanks for watching and enjoy.